Welcome to the channel, guys. In this video I'm going to talk about my last year's ownership of these cars and what the garage is going to look like going forward for 2025. So without any further delays, let's get on with it. So also we've got the Porsche Cayman R PDK right in front of us here, and we've got the Audi R8 V8 manual, and we've got the old 1978 Corvette pace car hiding back there in the garage. We've got a BMW E30 1989 325i Sport manual, and hiding in the back there we've got a McLaren 600 LT Spider, and finally we've got the R8 V8 4.2 litre manual, which I may have already mentioned. So let's crack on. So obviously the Cayman R was the most recent purchase. I believe we picked this up in November 2024, and the running cost for this car, obviously bit of a surprise that within essentially 2 weeks of getting the car, the front suspension collapsed. You can see a full video of that on the channel, which will be linked to at the end of the video. But in short, one of the dampers had failed, and which dropped the front end of the car, which was causing it to scrape. So after a full front end suspension rebuild, so new dampers, new springs, new top mounts, all new rubber bits that build up the struts, that was probably about £1,500 in parts. I did the work myself, so I saved quite a bit there. And the other modification, which is due to actually be done this week or next week, is the Sports Chrono retrofit for the PDK. Tax on this car is £345 a year, and insurance for both myself and Bryony is £400 a year. Cars also had a set of brand new tyres, Conti Sport 7s, which there is also a review of on this channel of how the Conti Sport 7 compares to like the likes of Michelin PS4S. And a set of those was about £600, so not too bad. But the running cost, the initial running cost for this car, including the upgrades, has been about £3,500. So a little bit of an unexpected cost, because actually these 987.2 generation Caymans tend to be extremely reliable, but unfortunately it needed that new front suspension. But overall, it's a fantastic car. I don't want to go into too much detail. There will be a full review coming to the channel soon about the Cayman R, but it's out of the bunch. I would probably say it's what I would hold it as amazing for is the handling, and just how confident, inspiring, and how amazing it feels to drive. The sensations and the feedback are truly incredible. So let's get to the Audi R8. And this is obviously velvet purple. It's an Audi exclusive spec car. So you've got the velvet purple, you've got the R8 bucket seats, you've got the purple stitch throughout. Again, there are detailed videos of this car on my channel, of which there are several. Running costs on this car has been remarkably cheap. We'll just quickly go over to my notes, because I did note everything down. So yeah, the car tax is the biggest surprise on this car. It's £750 a year. The insurance for both myself and Bryony is £350 a year, and the service and maintenance in 2024 amounts to about £500. So it's actually been a very cheap car to run. Obviously it has a thirst for fuel. I typically see an average of 14 to 18 miles to the gallon from the R8 in the kind of driving I do, which is generally mostly fun driving and not really any motorway cruising. To get onto the miles per gallon for the Cayman, that is typically about 18 to 20 miles to the gallon, again for the kind of driving I do, because on a motorway run the Cayman can just about see more 40 miles to the gallon. Did I miss any of our running cost out? No, oh, depreciation as well. So depreciation on the Cayman R is probably zero, simply because they are so rare. And since we bought this, there's not been another Peridot PDK Cayman R come up for sale. These are very rare cars. There's actually only 42 Cayman Rs in Peridot in the UK, half of which will be PDK, so 20 cars, and half of which again will have the bucket seats, so about 10 cars. Very rare. There'll be no depreciation on that. It may even appreciate. Likewise for the R8, because we bought it so cheap, the depreciation on the R8 is nothing. In fact, it's probably appreciating even in the current car market. Then we've got the McLaren 600 LT. Now this is my biggest, obviously, cost in just about everything. So the car tax is £550 per year. On its 6th birthday, that will drop to £190, but as it's a 2020 car, that won't be until 2026. The insurance, it is the most expensive of the cars, but again, Bryony is on the insurance, and it's only £670, which I think is still remarkably cheap for the kind of car that it is. The value of it and the performance, you know, is incredible. Now, the running cost is more expensive, but mainly because I like the peace of mind, and as such I do purchase the extended warranty. Now the extended warranty, I just purchased that just before Christmas, and it cost me £4,328. That is for 2 years though, so if you work that out, it's about £2,200 per year for the warranty, which gives me peace of mind because it pretty much covers the entire car. And we'll go into a little bit of what work it's had done under warranty over the past year. Fuel consumption is about 15 to 20 miles to the gallon. It's a very light car. It's a modern V8 with an overdrive, so it's got 7 gears. So when you're cruising, again, it can do 40 miles to the gallon. But the way I typically drive, I see 15 to 20 miles to the gallon from the car. Depreciation is the biggest hit on this. I bought it with 10,000 miles on the clock, and I've owned it now for 2.5 years. Car's now on about nearly 20,000 miles. And if I was to sell it retail, it would probably fetch around 140 to 150,000 pounds due to the spec of it being such a really high spec car. It's a full MSO car, so it's got a lot of nice extras. I paid 155,000 for it. So if I was able to sell it retail, and if I got 150, I'd be talking £5,000 depreciation. If I sold it for 140, you're talking 15,000 in depreciation, and so forth. Trade offers on the car would be anywhere between 115 to 130, so you could be talking up to a 30,000 depreciation hit if I was to take a trade offer, which I wouldn't, because I know I have a very rare spec 600 LT. I believe there's only 2 to 3 in the UK in Volcano Red, and it's an extremely sought after colour. No matter where I go in that car, what car meet I go, every time I'm at a meet, there's always somebody asking me, would I be willing to sell the car, because they absolutely love the way it looks. I've even had people comment on my YouTube videos to let them know if I'm ever going to sell it. And that's just simply because that colour is so desirable, and it is the only Volcano Red in a full MSO spec. So by that I mean the wing louvers, etc, etc. Warranty work. The car has actually been generally very reliable up until the back end of last year, where we were getting a lot of electrical gremlins, which couldn't really be explained. So I thought, winter's approaching, I won't be wanting to drive the car, so I spoke to McLaren Manchester and said, hey guys, my car's got these weird issues which you have witnessed on a drive out, but then it stopped doing it, but all of a sudden it seems to be doing a lot more. Would you be happy to recover the car back to Manchester, because it's become quite troublesome, and look at it over Christmas/winter? And they were like, yep, no problem at all. We'll get the car recovered totally at our cost, and we'll see if we can actually source your gremlin. So it took them about 8 weeks to actually resolve it. You know, they even went as far as pulling the dash out of the car. Thankfully, the dash is all back in the car now, and there's no rattles. So they did a fantastic job. Car's got no rattles or anything, and so far so good. There doesn't appear to be any problems. Basically what was happening is that the dash would recycle whilst driving, so almost as if the car was being turned on and off whilst driving, but the engine stayed running. Obviously it was quite alarming. They had the dash out, they checked all the wiring loom, which in the end they couldn't find an issue with the wiring loom, but they did find an issue with the steering column motor, and there was one of the modules in the car was running ODA software, so they put a new steering column motor in, and I believe they've also changed either the central body computer or updated its software, and checked a few other things, and I've got the car back. That was all done under warranty at no cost to myself. I even got a free box of chocolates with the car. Those guys' service is always superb, like, no complaints, and I just love the fact that the warranty really does cover pretty much the whole car, which I think is really important with a car that's, to me, worth so much money. I'm also proud of myself that I actually paid the McLaren off this year as well. So on top of those costs that I told you about, the car was costing me about £3,000 a year in interest payments. And essentially that's just chucking money down the drain. So I made the decision, I've got some cash saved up, it's time to pay the car off and make it my own. So I'm saving myself £3,000 a year in interest, because now all of these cars that I own, I actually own. None of them are on finance anymore. So I'm quite proud of myself for that achievement. I never thought I would be in a position where not only would I actually even own a supercar, but would I actually own so many incredible cars. And that's so obviously the biggest cost on the 600 LT was the interest payments and of course the extended warranty. Servicing was £1,000. In 2025, I also had a new set of tyres as well fitted in 2024. That ran about £1,000 as well. So some pretty meaty cost on the McLaren, but going forward, the car is now under warranty until March 27. It's got a set of new tyres, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it is absolutely bang on again. And I also did have fresh PPF installed on the front of the car as well at the back end of last year, because I did quite a few track days in the car, and no matter how careful you are on track, you are going to pick up the odd stone chip. Thankfully, the PPF that was on the car protected the paint like it's designed to do. So none of the chips went through to the paint. So we've had a new bit of PPF put on the front end of the car. We've had the whole front done, the wings and the bonnet and the bumpers. And as you can see, she is absolutely spotless and immaculate. So that's the cost on the McLaren. Hopefully 2025 and 2026 will be a much lower cost. We are going to Italy in the McLaren this year. We're doing our first proper European drive for a couple of weeks. So we'll be driving through France, Italy, Switzerland, Autobahn. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we can't wait, because obviously it's a Spider, so we can enjoy, hopefully, fingers crossed, the beautiful Italian weather. But that is the 600RT. Then we've got what is probably in a way, my favourite car, which is my old BMW E30. I always wanted one when I was younger. Now I have one. I have spent thousands of pounds on it, just making it spotless, and also mechanically everything now is pretty much brand new. We've got brand new disc and pads, so brand new brakes. All the calipers have been cleaned and refurbished as per requirements. Pretty much all of the engine consumables and service parts are all brand new. So by that I mean spark plugs, dizzy cap, fuel filters, oil filters, air filters, HT leads, throttle position sensor, airflow meter, the whole lot has been changed. So it's pretty much all brand new, and this thing is a beautiful car to drive. It's only like 160 horsepower, but it just goes to prove you don't need horsepower to have amazing fun. The E30 325i Sport is so silky smooth, and the sound is incredible. It's just a beautiful, beautiful car to drive. And I mean, it's a 1989 car. And just look at it. It is absolutely spotless. Admittedly, at the weekend, I did spend a lot of time polishing and waxing it, so it looks absolutely awesome. In fact, both the E30 and the McLaren are looking incredible at the moment, because they have both had the treatment. Even as you can see, the interior on this example is also really in good condition. Even, the seat bolsters, no wear, no rips on the seats. Even the dash only has the smallest of cracks in it. And this is an aircon model, and a job hopefully for 2025 on the E30 will be to get the aircon up and running, because it's probably one of the only things not now up and running on the car. Everything else works on this car. Everything, the electric windows, the electric mirrors, the sunroof, everything works as it should do. Everything. And also for an old car, I do drive it like a hooligan. I will admit, I don't know what it is. You'll have to excuse the flashing light in the garage there. But this car handles so well. Something that I did do at the back end of last year because I felt the car was too low on the, I think it was a Coney 6040 setup. It was really slammed and it would catch sometimes. So it's now got a Bilstein Pro B12 kit on it, which is it's still lowered, but it's about 2 centimeters higher at the front and a centimeter higher in the back, so it doesn't rub anymore. And it's still obviously got a lowered stance, but it's just a much nicer stance. But yes, there has been some big spend on the BMW, not because it needed it, it's never let me down, but simply because I wanted to make it fresh again. I mean, if you look, you'll even see the headlights are brand new. It's had brand new headlights, all 4 of them. It's had new fog lights. Everything's been done. I've gone through anything that I thought wasn't perfect, I've changed it. And hence why that car's had a few £1,000s spent on it in 2024. There is also going to be a few £1,000s spent on it in 2025. And the reasoning for that is bulkhead to the back, the car is very solid. Bulkhead forward, I have found a hole just behind the glove box in the bulkhead, and the front jacking points are non-existent anymore. Car also leaks a little bit from the sunroof, which is down to those drainage systems having some rust. So the car is going in for a restoration bulkhead forward, probably next winter, which will most likely result in an engine out job, at which point we'll also do a timing belt, water pump, etc., on the engine, and also maybe give the engine a full check over, and maybe if it needs anything rebuilding, do so as such. But the car's running about 160 horsepower, which is more or less where it should be. It's not quite where it needs to be, but it's kind of good enough. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love for it to have 180 or even 200 horsepower, but you got to do quite a lot of mods. And I need to ask myself, do I need to make it faster? It should be a cruiser. It's just that when I get behind the wheel of that car for whatever reason, I just absolutely love driving it like a hooligan. Something about an E30 and a typical BMW, it handles superbly well. Obviously the Cayman is new, so we haven't really done anything last year in it, but this year we'll be doing a lot of road trips in it, and we will hopefully try to do at least 1 to 2 track days in the car. Last year, so the R8 was very cheap to run. We did a lot of drives out in the R8, you know, with friends, a lot of road trips, and it's been absolutely faultless. The car is remarkable. Yes, it drinks a lot of fuel, but it's a huge amount of fun to drive, and it's so usable. You can use it all year round, and the spec of it for me is what makes it. If it was just a black or a white R8, it wouldn't be on my drive anymore. I would have sold it. But I've just totally fallen in love with the car, and that's purely down to the spec. It's so rare. You hardly ever see a Gen 1 R8 in what I would call a rare colour, and that velvet purple is extremely rare on a Gen 1 V8. So we'll get to the last car in the garage. Oh, I don't think we covered the running cost. The tax on the 325i Sport is £350. The car insurance for both me and Brian is only £200. I put my maintenance and upgrade cost down as £5,000 because obviously new suspension, new brakes, lots of new engine parts and ancillaries, etc. I would say I'm averaging 20 to 25 miles to the gallon, but often sub 20 because, like I say, I like to drive it like I stole it. Depreciation, 0. That car is going up in value because E30s in good condition are worth quite a lot of money now. And my view is when I have it perfect and the shell is solid, that car probably worth double what I paid for it, and I will easily get the money back. Now, excuse the flashing light in here. Let me just turn the lights off, see if the camera can still, there we are, so you can still see it. So this is my 1978 pace car. We've had this now for more than 3 years, and this is easily the cheapest car to maintain and own in my garage. The car tax is £0. That's because it falls under the classic car scheme in the UK. So because it's more than 40 years old, there's no car tax. Again, the car insurance is also very cheap. It's less than £200 for both myself and Bryony. Maintenance and repairs on the Corvette has been £500 in the last year, and that is because I wanted to tweak some bits. So it's had 4 new headlight lenses because they were starting to let in water, kind of looking like fish bowls. So it's had 4 new headlights. It's had the handbrake sorted out and adjusted. It's had one of the door locks stopped working, so that was fixed. And total parts, including the labour to do it, because I had a garage do it for me, and it was just £500. Miles to the gallon in the Corvette is not a strong point. You're talking 12 to 15 miles to the gallon. It is an old V8. I say it's 46 years old, so cars weren't particularly that economical back then, especially with a small block V8. Depreciation, again, is £0. This car's not losing any money. It may even appreciate in the future, but right now, it's not losing anything and not making anything really. Last year we didn't get to do much in the Corvette because it was such a wet year, and we do not like taking this car out in anything but bone dry conditions, just to keep the condition of it, because the car is absolutely spotless. The bird cage is solid, and there's no rust, there's no rot or anything on this car. The paint has some very minor bubbling, but it is a 46-year-old car, and when that gets to a point of becoming quite bad, we'll obviously get a paint job done on it. Well, that's the Corvette. We hope to do a lot more in the Corvette this year. I'm praying that we get a lot more days like today. But obviously, because it's very cold at the moment in the UK, and what we call the gritters are out, which they're spraying salt all over the roads, the Corvette doesn't come out even if it's dry in winter, because cannot risk getting salt on it. It simply would not do it any favours. But once winter has passed, we're hoping for some nice dry weather in the UK and to get out and use the Corvette a lot more. It's a really easy and relaxing car to drive, though I wouldn't particularly want to take it on a long run anywhere, because yeah, for a long run it's noisy and it drinks fuel. I think we took it for a run to the lakes a couple of years ago, and I think it averaged either very high teens or about 22 miles to the gallon. But it's a really fun car. It's not fast or anything, but it's fun. It handles actually pretty well. And the most surprising thing is the brakes are incredible on it, which you wouldn't expect for an old American car, but it really does have great brakes. So I believe that covers all of the cars. So that's all 5 cars. Bryony's made me a challenge for 2025. And that challenge is don't sell any of them and don't buy any more. Now, any of you who actually know me personally will know that's going to be a real difficult challenge to stick with, because I see things and I want them. And then because I want more cars means that generally to fund the extra cars, a car has to go. But the McLaren's going to go nowhere. I've had it for 2.5 years now. I want to own it for at least another year. And as I say, I now own the McLaren. It's all mine. But of course, the benefit of that is when I do come to sell it, all that money will be mine. And obviously, if I get 120 or 150,000 pounds, well, that could buy me a lot of cars or another very nice car. But for me, I don't think there's anywhere for me to go after the McLaren. Yes, there are faster cars, but faster never means better. And for me, out of the whole McLaren range, the 600 LT is simply the best McLaren you can buy. It's the most fun and it's the most engaging of all the McLaren models. So yeah, for me, it's just whoa. Bellissima, as the Italians say. The E30 was always my dream car. Now I have it. There's plans to make it even better. So that's going nowhere. And obviously we talked about that. The Cayman R hopefully will prove now reliable for the rest of the year. Now we've done the suspension and it's had a couple of upgrades. The other thing I would like to do to the Cayman R this year, it's very quiet. And the gears are totally seamless. So you can't even really tell when you change the dial gear. Now, obviously, as I said earlier in the video, we are going to do the Sports Chrono retrofit to the car. Hopefully that will mean in Sports Plus mode, the gearbox is a bit more aggressive and the down changes and the up changes are a bit more pronounced, which will help things. We don't want to change the exhaust because the exhaust is very well judged, but I am contemplating changing the exhaust manifolds, or as to any American viewers, the headers, because at standard there are 400 cell cats in the headers, and I'm thinking of going headers with just 200 cell cats, which should give a bit more noise inside the car and obviously unleash another 10 to 20 horsepower. The R8, there are no mods planned. This car is just brilliant out the box. The only things we have planned for it, because it is aluminium, we do have a little bit of cauliflower on one of the arches, which is very common for aluminium supercars to do this. I will try to point it out. For anybody who says that an aluminium car doesn't rust, well, it's not rust. It's like oxidation or, you know, a reaction because moisture's got under the paint and causes like this whole bubbling affair. So I need to get that addressed this year before obviously it decides to expand into a bigger reach. So we need to rectify that. But as to modifications on this car, nothing, just of course maintenance, and hopefully get that done. The McLaren, again, nothing, just maintenance. It will be due its 5th year service in March this year. Cost on that is anywhere between £600 to £900, so it's actually one of the cheapest services to do on the 600 LT, and that's simply because it doesn't need the coolant changed, because the coolant was changed last year under warranty for the hose clamp recall. If it had needed the coolant change, then it would have been the typical £1,000 to £1,200, but because it won't need that, it'd probably be maybe as cheap as £600, and that's actually at a McLaren main dealer. Of course, I'm not going to modify this car, leaving it totally standard. You just don't need any more than 600 horsepower in something that weighs only 1,400 kilos with a tank of fuel. The E30, going to get some welding done to the front end, and maybe see if we can eke another 10 to 20 horsepower out of it, just so I can light those back tyres up a bit more on demand and enjoy a bit of sideways action. Because for an old car, it's beautifully balanced. You can send it sideways, you can rag it around a roundabout, it handles amazing. Obviously stuff that I wouldn't necessarily try doing with the Corvette. We'll just put the lights on once more. Sorry if they start flickering. Obviously, we don't try to send that sideways or try to send it around roundabouts. It's a cruiser. It can do a national speed limit down a country road. You won't hold anybody up, but at the same time, you're not going to take it on a track day. It's a cruiser. So as always, if you've enjoyed this video, or if you have any questions about any of the cars, the running costs, the maintenance, what are they like to drive, do feel free to comment and ask, or just browse my channel, because there are lots of videos on all of these cars on my channel. And as always, if you have enjoyed watching this, then really, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps the channel to grow. I have now passed 1,500 subscribers, which is I'm really impressed with, because I think in November I was on about 1,000-ish. So I gained like 500 subscribers really in no time at all. By the time this video goes live, we might even be over 1,600. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of those of you who have subscribed. And again, if you like what you're watching, do please like, please do comment, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.